So, but the thing about the spiritual level is that it can sometimes get a woo-woo connotation, and I want to strip out the woo-woo right now and just tell you guys what I feel in my heart of hearts the spiritual level is all about. And what it is very simple. It's a moment of connection. It's when you're connecting up to something. When you're meeting something in presence and you feel very, very connected to something. And that connection makes you tap into something bigger or greater than who you are. And in that moment, insight can come through. So what do I mean by this? Let's say you love to garden. And let's say that there's nothing that gives you more pleasure than going outside and putting your hands in the soil. And as you're feeling that soil, and as you're connecting to that soil, and you're present, you just sort of feel yourself lighter. You feel yourself more open, something, and then you're gardening and it's a pretty day and you're outside and your hands are doing what they're doing, and all of a sudden an insight gets downloaded. And it's not an insight that you want to go and write down like a Hafid's quote or a Rumi quote, but it's an insight that just gives you a sense of knowing, a sense of understanding, like an aha. Oprah calls them ahas. You know, the aha moments, where it's just bigger than us. Or, let's say you love to tinker in the garage and you like to play with your cars. That is a moment of connection. Or a wonderful intimate conversation with a friend. That's a moment of connection. I have a girlfriend who's an excellent stand-up comedian, and she has an avid meditation practice. And when she goes out into a crowd, her connection, her spiritual work is working the crowd, is talking to everybody, is engaging with everybody. And it's just so beautiful to see the way that she interacts. And she's just keeps expanding and expanding more as a human being because of that connection. It's really, really beautiful to see. So that being demystified, I wanted to talk a little bit about a tool on the spiritual level, which I call perspective. And perspective is about the fact that we live in these little boxes, these little rooms that have no windows, that we can't see out beyond. We're conditioned to be a certain way. We were taught by our parents to act a certain way. Our teachers taught us to act a certain way. Society looks at us a certain way. There's all this little thing that we have to do. We do this dance in a little box, and we develop our identity based on all of that conditioning. So the tool of perspective is about pretending that you're standing on a mountaintop and you have a 360-degree view. There's no more walls. There's no more that you're open, and you have a limitless expanse around you. One of the places where I personally started working with this tool was Natalie Goldberg introduced me to a woman named Michelle Cassou, and she teaches painting for process. She does these wonderful workshops called the Painting Experience, and she teaches how to paint by being really present and meeting who you are. So when I took her first workshop, I picked up a brush for the very first time. I had never painted before, and something absolutely phenomenal happened for me, because I'm a mental person. I was an actress, I use words. I'm a writer, I use words. But with painting, I was in a whole other world. I didn't know what this was. So when I put my brush into a color, she just encouraged me to go to the first color I see, and I put my brush into the paint, and I took it to the white paper, and I started to feel the paint against the white paper. It was like I was transcended someplace else. It was like I could feel what was happening coming. Like it was like it wasn't a mental process. It wasn't something that I understood because it wasn't mental. It was something else that I was connecting with because there wasn't words. And so what she did for me was she helped me to learn how to dare and how to take risks and how to play and be a child again. You know, when a kid is painting, especially when they're really, really little, they're getting conditioned faster and faster these days, but when they're little, and you give them a paint, they're not going to say to you, you know, am I going to be considered psychologically bad and troubled if I paint a fire-breathing dragon? No, you know, you're like, no, they just go and paint that wild fire-breathing dragon with total abandon, and they don't care what people think. So there's this wonderful permission to just sort of get crazy and go wild. And so now we, as long as we're in a safe container, we go back to the mountaintop. And we remind ourselves that we have a 360-degree view, and we ask ourselves questions. This is the tool. To ask yourself questions that pops you out of that little room that you thought that you were living in. Okay? For example, what if I could be spontaneous? What if I could be free? What if it didn't matter if I failed or not? And there's this wonderful mantra that I started saying to myself after I started painting. When the mind comes up and wants to tell you something about yourself, you know, oh, you're no good, or your painting sucks, or look at the person next to you whose painting's so great, or, you know, what do you, Okay, so when the mind comes forward, a great thing to do is to say to yourself this mantra. So what? Who cares? Big deal. Why not? That's the mantra. So what? Who cares? Big deal. Why not?